As we near the end of the Easter season, we're beginning to see the light of hope shine on us as regional plans are implemented to gradually lift the restrictions that were put in place to slow the spread of the deadly coronavirus, COVID-19. I want to let you know that decisions about lifting restrictions in the Diocese of Greensburg are also being made. I would like to thank all of you who showed patience and who continue to show patience during this unusual time. Thank you most especially for caring for your vulnerable and elderly neighbors and for doing everything possible to protect them by your social distancing. Our sacrifices were a great act of charity toward our neighbors. I also want to thank our healthcare professionals and all those who work to provide for our needs at this time. Thank you, and know that you continue to be in our prayers as well. And I thank our clergy and church personnel who continued to perform their ministry and work despite many challenges. People were anointed, confessions were heard, the dead were buried, the sick were anointed, masses were offered privately, Catholic schools and parish religious education programs continued online, Catholic charities served the poor, and secretaries continued to respond to calls and emails. The church was never closed, even if our parish buildings and church buildings were. And I want to thank everyone who was able to continue supporting the mission of the church in these unprecedented and confusing times. Recently, I established a committee for recommencing in-person worship and operations. This group of clergy and lay leaders was tasked with determining guidelines and a timeline for reopening our church buildings for prayer and worship. Their workload has been enormous. I asked them to help me make some very difficult decisions. But the plan that this committee developed will enable us to return to our churches safely. Recommencing in-person prayer and worship will happen in waves and will be done with continuous consultation with state and regional healthcare leaders. In our first wave, implemented shortly after the yellow designation of all 4 counties in the Diocese of Greensburg, we permit our church buildings to open for private prayer on a schedule that is determined by each parish. I have set parameters that each parish must meet with regard to cleaning and sanitization. But I also call on the faithful to help us make this return to our church buildings a safe return. There will be signs posted in every parish reminding visitors that they must wear masks to protect others who are inside. And all people inside our churches must also adhere to social distancing requirements, sitting 6 feet away from others, unless they are members of the same household. These are examples of the kinds of precautions I am asking our parishioners to take so that our parishes can make a return to their churches that is as safe as possible. In Wave 2, we will be able to return to the public celebration of Holy Mass. However, returning to Mass and other liturgies during this second wave will include notable differences from your past experiences. For instance, the sign of peace will no longer include a handshake, and holy water and baptismal fonts will be drained. We might find that other practices need to be altered as well as we learn to live in this new normal for the time being. Our clergy, my staff, and I will do everything we can to help you understand these changes and remind you that we must always proceed with caution, empathy, understanding, and faith. For the foreseeable future, all people will remain dispensed from the obligation to attend Mass on Sundays. I ask that you make your own prudent and informed decision on whether to attend Sunday Mass or not after taking your own situation into account. You should especially use this dispensation from the obligation to attend Mass at this time if you are elderly or have a medical condition that puts you at a greater risk for serious complications from this disease. Consider also whether you come into routine contact with others who are at increased risk. You do not need to risk passing this disease on to someone you know is vulnerable. Know that you can still stay connected with your faith at home by watching streamed liturgies, using daily devotions such as the Rosary, and praying in any manner that lifts your heart and mind to God. I promise to continue to communicate with you regularly and to continue to serve the diocese with the help of your prayers. I've said it before, I will say it again. I am blessed to be the bishop of our diocese. Thank you for your faithfulness to our Lord. May God bless you and those you love.